Screen fades from black to a dimly lit room. You can just make out the silhouette of the narrator. Have you ever felt a chill in a perfectly warm room? That sudden, inexplicable drop in temperature that makes the hairs on the back of your neck stand up? Most people dismiss it. A draft, a trick of the mind. But what if it's not? What if it's a warning? I used to be one of those people, a skeptic. I'd hear ghost stories and just laugh them off. Urban legends, campfire tales, nothing more. Then I bought the old Blackwood House. That's when everything changed. It was a steal, really. It has a bit of a history, she'd said with a nervous smile, handing me a heavy, ornate brass key. I should have paid more attention to the way her hand trembled, but I was too blinded by the hand-carved woodwork and the stained glass windows. I saw a dream home, not the nightmare it would become. The first few weeks were normal. Unpacking boxes, painting walls, the usual chaos of moving in. The house groaned and creaked, but old houses do that, right? I told myself it was just settling. I didn't want to admit how the groans sometimes sounded like whispers, or how the creaks often followed me from room to room. The first real incident happened on a Tuesday night. I was in the kitchen, making a late-night snack. Suddenly, all the cabinet doors flew open at once. Not just drifted open, but slammed open as if kicked from the inside. They hung there, gaping like silent mouths in the dim light. My heart hammered against my ribs. I stood frozen for what felt like an eternity, listening. The only sound was the frantic beat of my own pulse. I slowly, cautiously walked over and closed each one, my hands shaking. I tried to reason with myself. A pressure change? A freak seismic tremor? Any explanation was better than the one screaming in the back of my mind. The next night, it was the music box. It was in a dusty crate I found in the attic, a beautiful thing made of dark polished wood with a delicate ballerina on top. I hadn't even wound it. Yet, in the dead of night, its melody started to drift down the hallway. It was a sweet, tinkling tune, but it was horrifyingly out of place in the crushing silence. The tune was slow, distorted, like a warped memory. I pulled the covers over my head, praying for it to stop. It played for hours. Things escalated from there. I'd wake up to find my furniture rearranged. A chair pulled up to the foot of my bed, facing me. All the picture frames in the house turned to face the wall. I'd hear a child's laughter echoing from empty rooms, followed by a heavy, dragging sound from the floor above. Sleep became a luxury I couldn't afford. I started seeing things in the corners of my eyes, a fleeting shadow, a flicker of movement where there should be none. I was living on a knife's edge, my nerves frayed to the breaking point. Friends stopped visiting. They'd say the house had a heavy feeling, that they felt watched, unwelcome. I couldn't blame them. I felt it too. I was a prisoner in my own home, haunted by an unseen, malevolent force. One evening, determined to find some answers, I went down to the town's historical society. An elderly librarian with kind eyes listened to my frantic story. When I mentioned the Blackwood House, her expression soured. She led me to a dusty archive in the back and pulled out a brittle yellowed newspaper from 1892. The headline sent a jolt of ice through my veins. Tragedy at Blackwood Manor. The article told the story of the original owners, the Blackwood family. Mr. Blackwood, a stern and cruel man, and his young daughter, Ellara. Ellara loved to dance. Her prized possession was a music box her mother had given her. According to the article, after a terrible accident, Ellara was confined to a wheelchair. Her father, unable to stand the sight of her brokenness and the silence where her laughter used to be, locked her away in the attic. One day, he simply left. He abandoned her there. The townspeople found her weeks later. The official cause of death was starvation, but the article hinted at something more. It said when they found her, every piece of furniture in her room was overturned, and the little ballerina on her music box was shattered. Suddenly, it all made a horrifying kind of sense. The whispers, the dragging sound, the rearranged furniture. It wasn't random, it was a story. a tragic, angry story being replayed night after night. It wasn't the house that was haunted. It was Ellara, trapped, forgotten, and filled with a rage that had festered for over a century. That night, I went back to the house, armed with this terrible knowledge. The air was colder than ever before, thick with a palpable sense of anger. As I stepped inside, the front door slammed shut behind me, the lock clicking with a deafening finality. The music box started playing from the top of the stairs. This time, it wasn't a gentle melody. It was a discordant, furious shriek of notes. I looked up, and for the first time, I saw her. It wasn't just a shadow. At the top of the landing, shrouded in darkness, was the silhouette of a small girl in a chair. I couldn't see her face, just an outline against the faint moonlight from the window behind her. A low growl, filled with a century of pain and betrayal, echoed through the hall. The chair began to move, not rolling, but scraping, dragging itself towards the edge of the stairs, one agonizing inch at a time. The dragging sound from my nightmares. I wanted to run, to scream, but I was paralyzed by a fear so profound it felt like my heart had stopped beating. This wasn't just a haunting. This was a confrontation. She wasn't just replaying a memory. She was inviting me to be a part of it. The temperature dropped until I could see my own breath fogging in the air. The scraping grew louder, closer. I knew with a certainty that chilled me to my very soul that I was not going to be leaving the Blackwood House. Not ever. The whispers started again, coming from all around me now, wrapping me in a cold embrace. They weren't just whispers anymore. They were shaping themselves into a single, terrifying word: play. Thank you so much for listening to my story tonight. If you enjoyed this journey into the dark, please consider hitting that like button and subscribing to the channel for more tales that will keep you up at night. Until next time, stay safe, and maybe think twice before buying that dream house.